Have you ever faced a moment you dreaded, one that made your heart pound so loudly you could barely hear your own thoughts? Maybe it was a conversation you'd been avoiding, a challenge you felt unprepared for, or a situation that seemed impossible to overcome. In those moments, fear can feel overwhelming, like a heavy weight pressing down on your chest, making it hard to breathe or think clearly. Your mind races with worst-case scenarios, replaying every possible outcome, most of them ending badly. You might find yourself lying awake at night, unable to sleep, your thoughts spinning in circles. The fear of the unknown can be paralyzing, making even small steps forward feel impossible. That's exactly where Jacob finds himself in Genesis 33, standing on the edge of a moment he's dreaded for years. He's about to meet his estranged brother Esau after 2 decades apart, a meeting that could change everything. The desert around him is silent, but inside, Jacob's heart is anything but calm. The last time they met, Jacob had deceived Esau, stealing his blessing and his birthright. Esau's anger was so fierce that he vowed to kill Jacob, forcing him to flee for his life. The memory of that conflict has haunted Jacob ever since, coloring every thought about this reunion. Now, after years of separation, Jacob has done everything he can to prepare. He's prayed desperately for protection, divided his family to keep them safe, and sent generous gifts ahead to try to soften Esau's heart. But despite all his careful planning, nothing can truly prepare him for the uncertainty of this moment. As Esau approaches with 400 men, Jacob's fear is real and raw. The sight of that large group on the horizon must have made his heart sink. Is this a welcoming party or an army coming for revenge? Every step Esau takes brings Jacob closer to the answer, and to the moment he's feared for so long. But this story isn't just about fear. It's about what happens when we choose to step out in faith, even when we're terrified. It's about trusting God with the outcome, believing that He can work in ways we can't imagine, and finding the courage to move forward despite our doubts. In the end, it's about the unexpected power of forgiveness and reconciliation. Sometimes, the very thing we fear most becomes the doorway to healing and restoration. Jacob and Esau's story reminds us that even the deepest wounds can be healed, and that relationships broken by conflict can be mended by grace. Even when we expect the worst, God can surprise us with something far better than we ever imagined. He can turn our moments of greatest fear into moments of unexpected joy and peace. So as we watch this incredible reunion unfold, let's remember, facing our biggest fears can lead to the most beautiful new beginnings. As Esau draws near, Jacob doesn't hide. He steps forward, putting himself at the front of his family. The early morning air is thick with tension, every heartbeat echoing the uncertainty of what's to come. Jacob's decision to stand at the front is not just about protection, it's a statement. He's no longer the man who runs from his problems. He's ready to face the consequences of his past, whatever they may be. He arranges his loved ones for safety, but then he bows to the ground 7 times as he approaches Esau, a sign of deep humility and repentance. Each bow is a silent plea for forgiveness, a physical act that speaks louder than any words could. In a world where pride often rules, Jacob's repeated bows are a radical act of surrender, showing Esau and himself that he is truly sorry. Jacob, once the schemer, now shows true courage by humbling himself before the brother he wronged. The man who once relied on cleverness and deception now relies on honesty and vulnerability. It's a transformation that didn't happen overnight, but through years of struggle, regret, and reflection. Every step is a risk, a leap of faith, not knowing if Esau will forgive or attack. The fear is real. Jacob remembers the anger in Esau's eyes from years ago. Yet he keeps moving forward, driven by hope that things can be made right, even when the outcome is uncertain. This is a powerful lesson. Real change is shown in our actions, not just our words. Jacob's actions speak volumes, showing that true repentance is more than an apology. It's a willingness to make amends, to risk rejection for the sake of healing. When we've hurt someone, it's on us to take the first step, to humble ourselves, and to seek reconciliation. It's not easy to admit we were wrong, especially when we fear the other person's reaction. But healing can't begin until we're willing to reach out, even if our hands are shaking. Jacob's story reminds us that the journey toward forgiveness often starts with anxiety and uncertainty. The courage to approach someone we've hurt doesn't mean we're fearless. It means we act despite our fear. Pride wants us to defend or excuse ourselves, but Jacob shows us that true strength is found in humility. It takes far more bravery to admit our faults than to hide behind excuses or justifications. He leads with vulnerability, not bravado. In that moment, Jacob's openness becomes his greatest strength, inviting Esau to respond with his own humanity. The path to healing often begins with us bowing low. It's a posture that says, I'm willing to do what it takes to make things right, even if it means swallowing our pride. Jacob's example challenges us. Are we willing to take that first step? Are we willing to risk rejection for the hope of reconciliation, to move forward even when the outcome is unknown? Sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is admit we were wrong. In that admission, we open the door to healing, not just for others, but for ourselves as well. Here's the twist. Esau doesn't respond with anger or revenge. Instead, he runs to Jacob, embraces him, and they both weep. Years of bitterness dissolve in a single moment of grace. Esau's forgiveness is immediate and complete, no demands, no conditions. Their families witness this miracle of reconciliation as Jacob introduces his wives and children, all bowing in respect. The grudge that defined their past is gone, replaced by brotherly love. God shows us that forgiveness can rewrite our story, turning enemies into family. Esau's heart, once hardened, is now open, proof that no relationship is beyond repair. With God, even the deepest wounds can be healed. This is the power of grace in action. After their embrace, Esau asks about the gifts Jacob sent ahead. Jacob explains they were meant to find favor, but Esau replies, I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have. Esau, once desperate for blessing, now stands content and secure. He forgives freely not because of gifts, but because his heart is full. Jacob insists, and both brothers declare, I have enough. Once rivals for a single blessing, now both recognize God's abundant provision. Their reconciliation is built on gratitude, not competition. God's blessings aren't limited. There's enough for everyone. True peace comes when we stop comparing and start appreciating what we have. This mutual contentment is the foundation of their restored relationship. Jacob urges Esau to accept his gift, saying, Seeing your face is like seeing the face of God. For Jacob, giving is an act of worship, a thank offering for reconciliation. Esau's acceptance completes the circle of forgiveness. Sometimes receiving a gift is as humbling as giving one. It means letting go of pride and allowing someone else's grace to bless us. True reconciliation is a two-way street. One offers, the other receives. Jacob's gift and Esau's acceptance seal their reunion. In our own lives, learning to receive apologies, gifts, or kindness can be just as important as learning to give. Grace flows both ways. This is how relationships are healed and strengthened. After reconciling, Esau invites Jacob to travel with him on his journey. Jacob, with wisdom, gently declines. His family and flocks need a slower pace. He honors Esau's offer but recognizes their lives are now on different paths. Reconciliation doesn't always mean returning to the way things were before. Sometimes, loving well means setting healthy boundaries for everyone. Jacob protects his family and respects his own unique journey. Forgiveness is complete, but their futures are separate and distinct. We can be at peace with others without forcing closeness that doesn't fit. True wisdom is knowing when to walk together and when to walk apart. Healthy boundaries honor both reconciliation and reality. What does this story mean for us today? In a world where misunderstandings and hurt feelings are all too common, the message of forgiveness is more relevant than ever. Each of us faces moments when we are wronged or when we wrong others, sometimes in small ways, sometimes in ways that feel impossible to repair. Genesis 33 shows that God's grace can heal even the deepest wounds. The story of Jacob and Esau reminds us that reconciliation is possible, even after years of pain and separation. Their journey is a powerful example of how God can work in our hearts, softening us and making room for healing. Forgiveness is a choice, a miracle that frees us from bitterness. It's not always easy, but it is always worth it. When we let go of resentment, we make space for peace and joy to enter our lives. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, but it does mean choosing love over anger. Like Jacob, we may need to take the first step. Sometimes that means reaching out, even when we're afraid of rejection or pain. It takes courage to be vulnerable, to admit our faults, or to offer an olive branch. Like Esau, we may need to let go. Letting go of old hurts can be difficult, but it opens the door to new beginnings and restored relationships. It's a gift we give ourselves as much as to others. Both brothers learned to say, "I have enough," realizing that true contentment comes not from what we possess, but from the peace we find in our hearts and in our relationships. Finding contentment in God's provision means trusting that we are cared for, that we don't need to hold on to grudges or compete for love and acceptance. We don't have to compete or compare. God's blessings are abundant. There is enough grace, enough love, and enough hope for everyone. When we celebrate each other's joys, we multiply our own. Let this story inspire you to seek reconciliation, to reach out to someone you've been distant from, or to accept an apology with an open heart. Choose to forgive and to be humble. Humility allows us to see others as God sees them, and to recognize our own need for grace. God can turn dread into joy, enemies into family, fear into peace. When we open our hearts to forgiveness, we invite transformation into our lives and our communities. Healing begins with a single step of faith. Even the smallest act of kindness or the simplest apology can start a ripple of healing that grows far beyond what we imagine. Share this hope with someone who needs it today. You never know how your words or actions might encourage someone else to begin their own journey toward forgiveness. May you experience the freedom and peace that comes from forgiveness, and may your life be a testament to the power of grace and reconciliation.